Apple cinnamon. Hello, dudes, dudettes, duders, and everyone in between, and welcome to this edition of Tech Spec Wrecker with Jess Kester. I'm Jess Kester, and I'm here to wreck tech specs to holy heck. That was an intro. On this program, what we do is we break down the technical specifications of newly announced equipment and discuss what those specifications mean and how they would apply in real-life shooting environments. Today, we are discussing the Mavic 3, the third mainline entry in the Mavic series. There have been about 700,000 Mavic drones released. There's the mainline Mavic series, there's the Air, the Mini, the Pros, and then there's also variants within each class of subcategory, and it goes on and on. But this is the third official entry in the Mavic cinematic universe. Now, I am the proud owner of a Mavic Pro. This was kind of the first edition that they released with some Pro features tacked in under the hood that I appreciated. So I picked it up. I bought this maybe 5 years ago, and I use it relentlessly. I love this thing. I have put it through holy hell. I've flown it into bridges, churches. I've destroyed it so many different ways. It has fallen from the sky, collapsed, been damaged, it's scratched up underneath there, and it keeps on ticking. I haven't even had to take this in for servicing. I have replaced the propellers myself because I shredded them, but in general, this has been a very rugged piece of equipment. So when the Mavic 2 came out, I didn't care. It was expensive, and this one was still ticking along just fine, and the upgrades felt significant, but not significant enough to justify the $3,000 buy-in. That said, Mavic 3 has some interesting tech specs to wreck. So let's wreck them, and then we'll try to figure out if it is worth the cost of entry to replace the tried and true Mavic Pro with the newest model. We got the specs printed out right here. Let's jump right into it. First up, 3-axis gimbal with dual cameras. Now, that 3-axis gimbal is nothing surprising. All the mainline Mavics have a 3-axis gimbal. You got left to right, you got up to down, and you've got rotation. In addition, you've got a bit of bounce with rubber bands. That is not mechanical or electronic. That is strictly rubber bands that keep it kind of bouncy, center, and get it to return to that neutral position. So 3-axis gimbal, nothing surprising there. Moving on to the dual cameras. Interesting. So they've got two cameras on this one. One is the main camera, the A camera, which is a 35 millimeter equivalent, and the other is a telephoto camera, which does, I think they say, 28 times hybrid zoom. We'll get into that in a minute. What do I think about dual cameras personally? Don't need them. I usually just use the best camera. If I'm given two cameras on one device, I will use the best camera. Every time, I don't really see myself using the telephoto that much, even if it's a pretty darn good camera. If there's this A camera with really high quality specs and then a B camera with slightly truncated, scaled down specs, just give me the A camera. Moving on. 20 megapixel 5.1K wide angle 4/3 CMOS Hasselblad, or as my wife would hear, what on earth does all that mean? Let's break it down item by item. So there's the 20 megapixel. A megapixel is a million pixels. 20 megapixels means it's 20 million pixels on the sensor plate. 5.1K, that is the resolution. Horizontal is 5,280. Vertical resolution is 3,956. Wide angle. So what they're advertising is a 35 millimeter equivalent. 4/3 CMOS Hasselblad. So 4/3 is a type of sensor. It is slightly larger than a 1-inch sensor, which is what you had on the Mavic 2, and much larger than whatever knuckle-butt stuff is crammed into this little tiny Gidget Gazmo right there. So a 4/3 sensor, that's the same as the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. It's a micro 4/3 sensor. It's the GH5. It's what you got on a lot of those cameras. So it's a perfectly serviceable. For professional cine cameras, it's perfectly serviceable. For a drone, it is right there at the ceiling in the prosumer space. That's right there at the ceiling of what you can get in the prosumer space. So amazing, excellent. That's it. That's going to be a huge improvement over the Mavic Pro. CMOS. What does CMOS mean? You see this a lot. CMOS means complementary metal oxide semiconductor, and this is usually said in relation to CCD, which is charge coupled device. What is the difference between CCD and CMOS? I don't want to get into a huge discussion right now, but we're going to go over it very quickly. CCD is a higher quality manner of converting light to electricity. It's just a better way to convert light information to digital information. The problem is that it's a much more expensive way to do it. CMOS has the transistor on each pixel, and CCD takes all the information from all the pixels and pushes it through a larger transistor kind of off the sensor. Again, I don't want to get too deep into it, partially because I don't know too much about it, and partially because it won't affect the drone, because it's not like there's a CCD alternative to the Mavic. All the drones are CMOS. Blackmagic cameras are CMOS. Arri Alexas, Red cameras, they're all CMOS. It's so standard in the industry that we're not going to drill too deep down into it. Suffice to say, CMOS is much cheaper to produce, but because the transistor is right there with the pixel, there's less room for the pixel, and that means that you're going to get less light into that pixel. That's the trade-off, but the cheapness of production and the recent advancements in quality, technology, blah, 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 mean that that CMOS, you're looking at CMOS right now. It's fine. Moving on. And Hasselblad, that's a brand of camera maker. They are known mostly for their very high quality, full-frame cameras. That's how they made their name, but they rent out their name for toys like this. In general, I would prefer a Hasselblad camera to whatever DJI is producing. I don't think DJI has the best color science, and once they started partnering with Hasselblad, they did get better optics and better color science, so it's good to see the Hasselblad name there. But, you know, it's like having Michael Jordan's name on a Nike shoe. Did Michael Jordan sit with the shoe designers week after week laboring over how to make a shoe that best fits his feet, or did he just sell his name to them? You don't know if you weren't in the room. So good on Hasselblad. I'm happy for the partnership, the color science coming out of DJI products, and the optics have been better than they were pre-Hasselblad collaborations. So hooray, Hasselblad collaborations continue. Excellent. Moving on. 12 megapixel telephoto with 28 times hybrid zoom. This is the second camera. 12 megapixels obviously is less than 20 megapixels, so it's going to be lower resolution, lower quality. It is telephoto. I do appreciate that. I find myself shooting 4K and finishing 1920 by 1080 a lot on this, so I can do a bit of a digital zoom, something that I will, in a moment, rail against. So get ready for that. The other thing they're advertising is 28 times hybrid zoom, which does not excite me at all. Digital zoom doesn't do it for me. Like I said back with the dual camera thing, I want one camera. I want the widest image I can get off of it. I want to use all of the sensor plate. And then if I have to, I can make those decisions in post. But in general, in-camera digital zooming isn't going to look the best. Maybe if you need to, spy on someone, I guess it could be useful. But in terms of cinematic production, where you want to deliver the highest quality image possible, you can miss me with that hybrid zoom shit. All right, moving on. Up to 46 minutes of flight time. Those up tos, it means everything that comes out after isn't really that exciting. 46 minutes is a lot. When these batteries were new, I was getting at most 22 minutes of flight time. So up to 46 minutes sounds pretty good. You might need to carry fewer batteries, but these batteries were very small, and the new batteries for the Mavic 3 are very large. So carrying two of these, yielding 44 minutes of flight time when they're new batteries, sounds very similar to carrying one of their batteries, which yields 46 minutes of flight time and is twice as big. So, kind of hit or miss. Moving on. Up to 9.3 mile transmission range. Again, the up to means you don't have to listen to anything they say after those two words because it means almost nothing. 9.3 mile transmission range. Again, this is vague. I know that this thing is advertised with whatever 5 kilometer transmission range, but you lose contact with the remote if you go behind a mountain or a hill or an obelisk or something like that. And also, you're transmitting video information. So while the drone might be able to tell the remote control where it is, and the remote control might be able to tell it where to go, if I'm not transmitting the video information, I'm flying blind. If we're getting glitchy video and I can't see what the camera sees, then I can't use it that far. So 4 kilometers, there was no way we were transmitting even a 30 frames per second 720 signal from this to the remote so that I could view it while I was flying. So, those up-tos don't really mean that much in a actual scenario. If you're flying a sports drone, that's a little bit different. If you're flying it and you don't need to see what you're shooting, you're just flying for fun to see how far out over the salt flats you can get it, cool, go for your 9.3 miles, but is that actually going to work in a production environment? I'm telling you right now, no. No, it will not. The up-to tells you right now that it will not be useful in a production environment. You might get a mile before you start losing the video feed. You might get a mile, but there's no 9.3 miles. I don't believe that at all. And again, I don't believe that at all when it comes to transmitting video so I can see what I'm shooting, so I can know if I'm getting a useful shot for the client or not. That's the concern here. Next, 360-degree obstacle avoidance system. This thing has obstacle avoidance, and I've flown it into everything. And also, I've flown this thing into everything, and it didn't break. So I don't really care about the 360 obstacle avoidance system. You should be watching where your drone is going and making sure you're not flying into trees anyway. For a pro user, for somebody who's actually trying to get shots for a client and also not fly into the client's building while you're getting that shot, you got to be watching the drone. The 360 obstacle avoidance doesn't really apply in that scenario. It's helpful, it's useful if you're a hobbyist, but cool. Don't take it out. It's fine to have it in. Moving on. Apple ProRes 422 HQ and 10-bit D-Log. Now, the first one is only for the Cine model. Oh, yes. There are multiple models of this coming out. There's the base model and the Cine model, and we'll get into the difference after we get through this list. Apple ProRes 422 HQ sounds very sexy at this point. This little guy only shoots H.264, and it is very compressed. There are many compression artifacts, especially when you're looking at the broccoli trees, which is a bummer because trees should look fantastic from a drone. So to kind of not be able to shoot gorgeous looking trees blowing in the wind from a drone's perspective it's felt. I definitely feel it with this. And the 10-bit D-Log, my God, sign me up for that. I believe that this one is 8-bit. This is not great color quality. You can't do that much color correction when you're done, but 10-bit is warmly welcome, and some form of log, sorely missed on this model. The log that they're shooting looks very flat. I don't know how many stops of dynamic range they're advertising. I imagine 12. I'm just going to guess 12. So the D-Log, warmly welcome. 10-bit, warmly welcome. ProRes, warmly welcome, but it comes at a cost we'll talk about in a minute. Next, 1080p 60 frames per second live view video stream. Cool, fine, yeah, I guess. I don't mind a 720, 30 frames per second. I just need to know that the shot is what I want to be getting. I don't need to have a realistic 60p virtual reality experience like I'm there. I just need to be able to see the shot. Less than 720 would hurt, but 1080 60p, warmly welcome. Not crapping my pants over that. Built-in storage with up to 1 terabyte. So let's get into these differences. The base model has 8 gigabytes, which, let me tell you right now, is nothing. That is not nearly enough for 46 minutes of filming. I can fill up 16 gigabytes in 20 minutes easily. So 40 minutes of shooting to 8 gigabytes. You can miss me with that. They do have an SD slot, a micro SD slot on the version 3, which means you can augment it. You can put 128 gigs in if you want. But the internal storage, I think they should be going with more internal storage. And they do on the Cine version. They come with 1 terabyte inside of the machine. Love that they have an internal drive. I wish this one had one. I hadn't even thought of it. I was so reliant on the micro SD. It didn't even occur to me that they might one day build a Mavic with an internal storage solution, which I'm glad they did. Welcome to the club, Mavic. And I love the terabyte. That's a perfect number. 2 terabytes would be welcome, but you know what? You don't even have to put 2 terabytes in, because then people will just leave their old footage and it'll be up there in the sky with 1.8 terabytes shot. And they'll be wondering, oh, what can I delete? What can I delete? Bring it down, plug it into the computer. No, just leave it at 1 terabyte. So as soon as you're done filming, you offload all the footage, back it up, and you don't leave anything on there, because 1 terabyte's perfect. That's all I'm saying. 1 terabyte's perfect. Leave it as it is. Love it. Mwah. Moving on. RC Pro remote with 5.5 display. Okay, so there's the remote with the display and without. The remote with the display comes with the Cine model. The remote without the display comes with the base model. And if you're getting it off the base model, that means that you are getting out your cell phone every time you want to fly. You're plugging it into their little goofy adapter thing, and then you're kind of doing this, it's not the best solution. It works, but it's not the best solution. And then you have the constant app updates. And is this app going to be compatible with the newest OS? And what new glitches are going to be emerging when the new OS drops or the new app update drops? Anyway, I would prefer the remote with the built-in display, that is just 1 unit and it's dedicated, paired to the drone that you're getting. That is with the Cine. So the Cine really seems like it's a very strong offering compared to the Mavic Pro. Even the non-Cine, the base model, is pretty incredible compared to this. Is it worth it to upgrade to the base model? Not quite sold, but the Cine model seems like it might be worth it. Let's talk about the difference in price, because this is where the whole equation may or may not collapse for you. If you're a hobbyist, the Cine model might not be for you. Let's break it down. So there's the base model that is $2,199. There is the Fly More combo, which is $3,000. And then there is the Cine bundle, which includes everything in the Fly More combo. It replaces the RC remote without the display with the RC remote with the display. And it unlocks ProRes 422, and it gets you that 1 terabyte inside the drone. But the price jumps to $5,000 at that point. So this drone, when I got it, was $1,300, I believe, maybe $1,500 with the Fly More combo. Don't really remember. It was, it was less than $2,000 and just scraping above $1,000 for the base model. If there's one thing I've learned, having purchased the Fly More combo, it is that you absolutely have to purchase the Fly More combo. The base model is not... It's just not the thing. It's not going to work. It doesn't have enough batteries. It doesn't have enough accessories. It doesn't have what you need to get out and shooting in a real production environment. It's worth giving it a go if you're a hobbyist and you've never flown before and you want to grab some really nice shots, but you don't think you're going to be doing it that often. And when you do go fly, you're just going to be putting it up there for 20, 30 minutes and taking it back down and getting back to your barbecue on your yacht or whatever you do with your spare time. I drink tea. So for me, take that the base model and remove it from the equation. It is not a product worth purchasing. So that means that the Fly More combo is the actual base model, and that comes in at $3,000. That is twice the cost of this. Am I going to be getting twice the value? That's the question. Do our clients rely on us for aerial photography enough? And do they have a discerning enough eye that it's worth spending $3,000 to get essentially the next model up from this with no ProRes baked in? I don't know. I would say no. I would say that our clients don't hire us for our drone, and that's fair. That's fair. They're drone operators who have very high quality equipment, and when you need them for a feature film production, grab them. we're doing corporate videography. They don't know the difference between an 8K Komodo Dragon and a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera because there's no way to tell. We're just sitting, we're doing talking head interviews. So is the $3,000 version worth it? No, for me, no. If I had $3,000, I wouldn't buy it. I'd just save up $2,000 more and get the Cine bundle, which is gorgeous. Am I in a position financially to purchase the Cine bundle right now? I would encourage you to watch our video, How to Fail Successfully, and I think you'll find an answer to that question. No, I'm not. But if I were to buy one, it would hands down. If I had $3,000 to spend on the Fly More combo, I would absolutely, without thinking twice, upgrade to the Cine bundle, that 1 terabyte internal, the ProRes 422. Those make it worth it for me. That's worth the cost of entry. So those are my opinions on the DJI Mavic 3. Thank you so much for watching this video. We will be back with more tech spec wrecker videos as we shoot, edit, and upload them. Until next time, enjoy being you. You think that's going to be our new sign-off? Is that how I'm going to be ending these videos from now on? Grab some tea. Go enjoy your day. Stop watching videos of me.